Have you ever opened your eyes in the morning and felt like you'd already lost before the day had even begun? Nothing is obviously wrong, yet everything feels dull. You reach for your phone, scroll through an endless stream of messages, images, and other people's lives, forgetting that your own life has just begun. Have you ever asked yourself, am I truly living or just reacting out of habit? Each morning you choose who leads your day, you or the world outside. The morning isn't simply the moment you wake up. It is the moment you rewrite your declaration of how you intend to live. The Stoics don't let their minds be conquered before they've had a chance to direct them. They don't wake up to react. They wake up to lead. Self-mastery doesn't begin with a grand victory. It begins with a small act, choosing to wake with intention. And in that exact moment when you decide what enters your mind first, you are training your inner strength, fortifying your dignity, and living as if you have a mission. So what morning principles can help you not only stay awake, but become mentally invincible? 1. Wake by discipline, not by emotion. There is something very small yet shaping your entire future. How you respond when the alarm rings. That piercing sound is not just the call of a phone, but a wordless question. Do you command your life, or do your emotions command you? In that instant, you stand at a crossroads, not sleep more or rise early, but master yourself or surrender to indulgence. And most of us, without noticing, choose the second path. Because emotions always find an excuse. They whisper, I need a little more rest. I'm tired today. Nothing urgent yet. And worst of all, no one cares if I wake early or not. It sounds reasonable, but those tiny thoughts slowly erode your self-respect. You think you're only delaying 10 minutes of sleep, but in truth, you are delaying the better version of yourself, the one you know you could become. The Stoics understood that emotion is variable, but principle is foundation. You don't need to wait for inspiration to begin the day. You need only one simple principle. I wake on time because I chose it beforehand. This is not forced discipline. It is consistency with the commitment you made to yourself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, I must rise, for I am a human being. He did not mean a job, but a calling. A human is not born to drift in sleep, but to awaken, to act, to serve what is right. Discipline is not something you must feel. It is something you must do, especially when you least want to. And on those weary mornings, when every cell urges you to stay in bed, rising anyway is a small act, but a profoundly powerful one. It reminds your own mind, I am trustworthy. I keep my word. I do not let passing impulses decide my enduring character. Each time you wake on time, you defeat more than the clock. You defeat the soft voice in your head that has delayed countless plans, broken promises, and chipped away at self-respect every time you pressed snooze. Remember, that button does not just delay the alarm. It delays your growth. It delays the life you could already be living. So do not wait for comfort to act. Do not wait for enthusiasm to do what is right. The Stoic does not wait for feeling to act. He acts first and lets the mind follow. For he knows the mind changes in a moment, but steady action shapes character. And when you repeat this each day on time, without negotiation, without compromise, you send a clear signal to yourself. I am someone who can lead myself. If you want to wake early consistently, you do not need more willpower. You need more awareness. Prepare the night before. Set a clear goal. Treat the alarm as an appointment you cannot miss, for it is a meeting with the strongest version of yourself. When the clock rings, do not think. Do not reason. Do not bargain. stand. Immediately. As a warrior rises to face the battle within. You will not see life change in a day, but after a week, you will feel more confident. After a month, you will act with more resolve. And after years, you will look back and realize it began with that simple act rising when you least wanted to. You will see that what once seemed small was the very foundation of the person you have become. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. It is the condition of freedom. One who cannot master the hour of rising will struggle to master life itself. So each morning, remember, not because you feel ready, but because you have chosen to live with intention, and that choice begins the moment you open your eyes. 2. Guard the first hour as you guard the heart. There is a sad truth few notice. Many people begin their morning with a mind that belongs to someone else. The moment you open your eyes, you grab your phone, not from need, but from habit. And in that moment, you trade clarity for noise. News, drama, notifications, messages from work not yet begun, all invade your heartbeat without mercy. Before you feel your body, hear your breath, or ask, "How do I feel?" you are already pulled away by what is not yours. You may think it's just a quick scroll, no harm, but you forget that the mind, fresh from sleep, is soft. It absorbs, it is programmed, it is swayed. And if the first thing you let in is noise, do not be surprised if you carry a nameless tension all day, a restless unease you cannot name. The Stoics knew that the first hour after waking is not just time, it is sacred ground. You would not build a fortress only to leave its gates wide open. You would not raise a will only to let empty clips or shocking headlines break in like thieves in the night. Epictetus once said, "Men are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of things." And your views largely begin with what you allow into your mind while you are still yawning. Morning silence is not a lofty meditation. It is power. It is how you tell the world, "I am not yet ready to be carried away." When you rise and give yourself minutes with no music, no apps, no replies, just sit there, breathing in and out. You reclaim the sovereignty stolen from you for years. You create a mental space to hear your own heartbeat, to ask what you need, what you want, and how you will live today. Ask yourself this. Have you ever wondered, what is the very first mood I feel each morning? Or have you grown used to letting others decide it for you? A grim headline, a careless criticism, a clip that makes your life seem worthless. All these are things you allowed in before you even left the bed. That is not awakening. That is invasion. Instead, try something simple. Give the first 10 minutes after waking to yourself. Do nothing. Just wake and be there. Sit upright. Close your eyes. Hear the fan, the leaves outside, the beat in your chest. Feel the air passing in and out like water. When thoughts appear, do not chase them. Watch them drift by. Each time you hold the silence, you train what the Stoics called prohairesis, the power to choose how you respond to life. In modern society, silence is rare. But for one who understands, it is essential, because in silence, you begin to hear what truly matters. You hear the fear smoldering inside. You hear the longing revealing itself. You hear the urge to avoid, to delay, to indulge. Yet at the same time, you hear another voice steadier, stronger, saying, "Today, I will live truer than yesterday." And you will notice something strange. When you step out of that silence, the world no longer pushes you around as it once did. Bad news does not shake you. Sudden events do not ignite your anger. You do not react at once, for you have trained yourself to create distance, and that distance even of seconds is where you reclaim mastery of life. Others may rush. They may rise and run as if being chased. But not you, because you understand that morning is not for haste but for awareness, and awareness begins in silence. You do not need an hour of silence, just enough to keep from being swept away before you can ask, who am I? What am I living for? And what energy do I want to carry into each step today? When you answer that, you begin the day as a guide, not as one driven by the world's noise. 3. Anticipate adversity to remain calm beyond others. There are days when everything seems perfectly arranged. You wake on time, guard your silence, prepare your mind like a soldier stepping into battle. Yet only hours later, something unexpected happens, a careless word, a work mishap, a nameless irritation, and your mood collapses. All the effort of the morning becomes fragile as paper, torn apart by what you did not foresee. The truth is, most things that shake us are not the events themselves, but our failure to prepare for them. We often live with a silent assumption. Everything will go as planned. And when the world does not follow our script, we react as though it is against us. But in reality, the world owes no duty to align with our moods, and the Stoics understood this long ago. They called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. Not to be pessimistic, but to be prepared. Not to expect the worst, but to remain standing if it comes. Because they knew, the one who does not anticipate hardship will always be a victim of his own spirit. Seneca once wrote, "He who anticipates calamity has taken away its power." These words do not encourage suspicion toward life, but remind anyone longing for a perfect day. That day will not arrive, but a steadier version of yourself can arrive every day. This morning, after your silence, you might ask a few simple questions. If someone annoys me today, how will I respond? If traffic jams, what will I do with the impatience in me? If I feel lazy, how long will I let it guide me? Do not wait for the storm to learn how to stand. Learn to stand even while the sky is still clear. When you anticipate the negative, you are not calling it forth. You are only acknowledging that anything can happen. And when it does, you do not panic, blame, or curse. You exhale and quietly say, "I was ready." You are not cold or indifferent, but one who has trained an inner distance where nothing enters without passing through your awareness. I once had the bad habit of starting each day with expectations. I hoped others would act rightly, that work would flow smoothly, that I would always feel energy and inspiration. But life knows nothing of these hopes. It unfolds as it is, with its surprise, its chaos, its indifference. And the more I expected, the easier I was wounded. The more I demanded the good, the quicker I burned when things turned. Until I learned to trade expectation for preparation. Instead of asking, "How will today unfold?" I learned to ask, "Who will I be, no matter how today unfolds?" A small shift, but enough to redirect the whole day. When you stop demanding the world to treat you well and begin demanding yourself to hold to virtue, you step out of the role of victim and into the role of master of your spirit. And the strange thing is, when you practice this long enough, you begin to feel a quiet power. You are no longer tossed by another's moods. You no longer shatter when hardship strikes. You step back half a pace, observe, choose, and continue as though you have lived it once before. Because in the mind, you already have. Like a warrior who never enters battle without picturing his wounds, the Stoic begins the day not with a false smile, but with the gravity of one who knows life does not hold back. And because of this, they do not tremble when tested. They prepared for it at dawn, not with armor, but with an inner citadel forged through reflection. To anticipate adversity does not close you off. It opens you with fortitude. It does not make you pessimistic. It makes you unafraid. And that, in this turbulent world, is among the highest forms of freedom. 4. A reminder. As a pillar of the spirit. There are mornings you wake and everything feels quiet, but not peaceful. As if you rise from a storm of emotions still echoing in dreams, and wake with a mind not yet formed. You leave the bed, pour coffee, glance in the mirror, check the phone but are not present in any moment. You are living, but not truly alive, reacting by habit rather than acting with awareness. And that is when you need something to anchor you, a reminder that keeps you steady amid life's turbulence. The Stoics did not see the morning as a trivial prelude to the day. They saw it as sacred time to reset their inner compass before pressures, demands, and noise could pull them off course. They did not step into the world without first asking, "Today, what am I living for?" And to answer, they needed a compass not of metal, but of words, a single phrase repeated each morning, simple, unadorned, yet strong enough to call them back to themselves whenever they drifted away. Marcus Aurelius wrote each morning. His notes were not for others to read, nor for teaching. They were self-reminders, anchors, strokes of ink that kept him from drifting in the tides of power, emotion, and duty. They were not abstract philosophy, but practical practice. A way for an emperor to preserve his moral core in a world that easily strips reason away. And if a man with supreme power needed a morning reminder to live rightly, perhaps we ordinary people cannot live without one. A reminder does not need to be long nor elegant. Its power is not in stirring you on day one, but in guiding you through 365. It may be a truth you deeply believe, a promise you want to live by, a principle you once lost and now wish to reclaim. When you repeat it each morning, you reorient the mind, not to shift feelings, but to define identity. You tell yourself, "This is what I choose to live by, no matter what happens today." I once dismissed short sayings. To me, they felt like slogans, nothing more. But one time, after months of turmoil, I tried writing a single sentence each morning. I do not react, I choose. At first, it felt like talking to air, but then one afternoon when faced with a sudden situation, I heard it inside clear, quiet, firm. I do not react, I choose. And I chose silence where the old me would have exploded. For the first time, I felt the true power of an inner reminder. A sentence, if true, becomes more than words. It becomes a pillar of the soul. You no longer waste mornings wondering how to live. You recall the phrase, and every decision aligns to a direction. You act with more depth, respond with restraint, and live with purpose. That reminder becomes the measure of what deserves your energy, what to let go, and what essence to keep amid the endless collisions of life. Write your own. It does not need beauty. It does not need to resemble anyone else's. It only needs to be true. True enough that each time you read it, you return to a clearer, stronger version of yourself. Write it on paper. Post it on your mirror. Place it in your phone. Repeat it brushing your teeth. Speak it tying your shoes. Repeat it like a ritual. Do not just write it. Let it rewrite you each morning, little by little. We cannot escape vague mornings, uncertain moods, or moments that shake us. But if each morning you have a phrase reminding you, "This is who I am, and this is what I live for," Then even when lost, you have something to return to. The Stoics are not different because they are stronger. They are different because they refuse to forget what matters most, and they begin each day by reminding themselves of it. 5. Write to understand yourself, and from there, lead yourself. There are things in your mind that seem clear until you are forced to write them down. A feeling that seems simple, an unnamed irritation, a vague sadness, or even a weariness with no specific cause all become slippery and undefined if you only hold them in your head. But when you write them, each line appears like a mirror, and in that mirror, you see yourself more clearly, more fragile, more tangled, yet more real. The Stoics did not write to remember, they wrote to understand. Marcus Aurelius wrote not to become a philosopher, but to avoid betraying himself. Epictetus did not teach for applause, but to retrain his own mind every day. For them, writing was not an act of creation, but of living, an inventory of the soul, a way of leading themselves through honesty. I once resisted journaling. In my head were endless reasons to delay, no time, nothing to write, dislike of self-reflection, or simply not wanting to face what lay deep within. But then I realized it was precisely because my mind was chaotic that I needed to write. Precisely because my emotions were unruly that I needed to bring them into the light. Writing does not erase the problem, but it gives you the courage to name the truth, and once named, the truth loses its haunting power. Spend a few minutes each morning, after silence, after your reminder, to sit and write. Not a philosophical essay, not polished, not profound, not perfectly concluded. Write simply what you feel. What worries you today? What are you grateful for? What emotion is quietly shaping you that you have not yet faced? Write it down, even in a few lines, and you will see. What was vague becomes specific. What circled endlessly in your head is set in order, and you, for those few minutes, are no longer ruled by emotion, but directing it with words. The Stoics did not urge the suppression of feelings. They urged facing them, not with judgment, but with clarity. They did not believe the strong are those who feel nothing. They believe the strong are those who feel everything yet let nothing overthrow their virtue. And for that, no practice is more practical than dialogue with yourself through writing. Writing shows you where you stand in the current of life. It reveals what you are avoiding. It gives you the chance to ask, why does this bother me? What am I trying to prove? What quality can I live by today to be truer? Perhaps patience, courage, compassion, or simply silence at the right moment. Each question is a step back toward mastery of the spirit. You do not need to write every day if that feels like pressure. But if your mornings pass in vagueness, if you react too quickly, if emotions carry you too easily, then write. A short paragraph, a single line, a truth you cannot yet speak aloud. That alone is enough to make a difference. After a few weeks of practice, you will notice subtle but powerful change. You become more alert to the negative thoughts quietly driving you. You begin to see when you are exaggerating problems and when you are repeating old habits simply because they are familiar. Writing is a form of observation, and the one who can observe himself begins to gain real power. The Stoics trained their minds as warriors train swords. They knew if reason and awareness did not guide the mind, it would become a battlefield of reactions, desires, and erratic emotions. And in that training, the pen or even a few lines on a notes app was their quiet but most effective weapon. We cannot change the world each morning, but we can adjust our stance toward it. And writing down your first thoughts of the day is how you begin. You need no praise, no audience, no art, only honesty. And that honesty, repeated each morning, will gradually build an inner strength no one can take from you. 6. Move the body to awaken the mind. You may wake on time, guard silence, write deeply and craft a reminder for the spirit. But if your body remains sluggish, lazy, and heavy, your spirit will be dragged down with it. The body is not separate from the mind. It is the first ground where the spirit leaves its mark. It is the first tool where will is tested. And if you neglect the body from morning, you send yourself a vague message. I am not truly ready. It is no accident that the ancient Stoics, men of reason and intellect, placed great weight on physical training. To them, movement was not just exercise for muscles, but a test of will. They knew a person cannot lead his mind if he cannot even pull himself out of physical inertia. From the first steps out of bed to the stretch, the deep breath, the push beyond comfort, all are silent declarations. I command myself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote sharply, "Were you born to snuggle under blankets and seek warmth like a little creature, or to act as a human being, as a rational part of the universe?" That question was not theoretical. It was a blow against laziness disguised as reason. I need more rest. I am not strong enough. It's not time yet. But the Stoics did not live by reasons. They lived by principles. And their morning principle was action before feeling, movement before stagnation. You do not need intense training. You do not need 2 hours at the gym. But you need initiative. 10 minutes of walking in silence, a few stretches in the morning light, a basin of cold water to wake your face. These small acts, if done with consistency and intent, ignite a fire of will stronger than any advice you may read. The body's movement sends a signal to the whole system. We are ready. Blood begins to circulate, the heart quickens, the breath strengthens, and the mind, still tangled in fog, becomes clearer, sharper. In movement, you feel your presence again. You are no longer just a head floating in worry. You are a whole being, body and spirit, stepping into the day with real strength. I once thought mastering thought was enough. I spent hours reading, planning, writing. At the next morning, I pulled the blanket over my shoulders and ignored every promise to myself. Then I blamed my lack of persistence, my lack of will, until I realized I had forgotten the essential, the body, not for sport, not for beauty, but simply to begin the day with proof that I can command myself. 1 push-up, 1 step outside, 1 splash of cold water. These acts did not make me wiser, but they convinced me I could overcome what I did not want to do. This is what the Stoics called training the will. You do not wait for inspiration. You train will with action, and the body is the ideal ground because it resists the most. The body will always tell you, not yet. Sleep more. You are tired today. But when you act against that resistance, you carve into the mind a signal. I do not let feelings decide my fate. Slowly, morning movement ceases to be mere exercise. It becomes ritual, a ritual that needs no witness, but you know and you feel that you are building an inner strength no outside force can take. And the remarkable thing is, it does not come from bursts of inspiration, but from durable habit. From the single time you rose when you did not want to. From the single time you ran when the mind said stop. From the single time you acted when you could have excused yourself. Do not underestimate the first movement of the day. It is the moment you tell yourself without words that you are living a life directed. A life not only reflected on, but lived. And if you can command your body in those first seconds, you will more easily command your reactions, thoughts, and choices through the rest of the day. 7. Envision the person you want to become. There is a question that seems simple, but if you pause long enough to answer, it can change your entire way of living. What kind of person do I want to become? Not a question you write on a resume, not one for interviews, but a question you must ask yourself each morning with honesty, without pretense, without defense, without avoidance. Because if you do not deliberately envision the person you want to be, you will easily be swept into becoming the person shaped by circumstance, pressure, or the expectations of others. And that is how most people lose themselves, not in a single dramatic moment, but through each day lived without a clear sense of self. The Stoics did not let identity form by chance. They lived by a clear principle. Live in accordance with the best rational part of yourself. Meaning every action, every reaction, every choice must answer the question, is this what the better version of me would do? And to achieve this, they practiced daily a habit that seems small, yet is immensely powerful: visualization. Before leaving the house, before meeting others, before entering the unavoidable collisions of life, the Stoics spent a few minutes to envision. They did not envision results. They envisioned qualities. Not what would happen, but how they would respond. Not what they would gain, but what values they would live by, no matter what came. You can try this each morning, right after silence, writing, movement, and your reminder. Sit upright, close your eyes, and ask, today, who do I want to show up as? Not in the eyes of others, but in your own eyes when night falls and you face yourself in silence. Picture yourself walking into the workplace, or a high-pressure room, or a situation that easily tests your temper. What will you say? How will you remain silent? How will you hold your gaze? Picture speaking with someone who hurt you, or with someone before whom you often hide your true self. Will you dare to keep respect without submission? Will you dare to keep calm without coldness? When you visualize, you are not pretending. You are tuning yourself. You are teaching your mind to recognize the right quality before the moment arrives. And when it does, you will not be confused, for your mind is already primed. It will say, I have seen this before, and I know how I must live. Just as an actor rehearses before stepping on stage, or a warrior trains his stance before battle, the Stoic trains the mind before entering a turbulent day. Not to control everything, but to control himself amidst everything. For self-mastery does not come from having things go our way, but from keeping dignity even when nothing does. I once lived many years without envisioning anything. I let myself react by emotion, act by circumstance, adapt by the people in front of me, until I realized I was a mirror reflecting everything that struck me, yet with no inner light. I no longer knew who I wanted to be. I only knew I was exhausted from always being the version others needed. Since I began envisioning myself each morning, I have not become perfect, but I have become steadier. I do not react as quickly, but I react more rightly. I do not always win in every situation, but I always leave with my self-respect intact. And that, to me, is the mark of a day well lived. Visualization is not positive thinking. It is the construction of an active inner self. When you begin your day by shaping who you want to become, you are living with depth, not drift. You are training so that when sudden winds blow, you are not toppled, for you have anchored yourself to a strong enough image, the image of yourself, at your best. And if you repeat this each morning, you will not only grow into the person you admire, but you will realize something deeper. You do not need to become anyone else to live with worth. You only need to be awake enough to live true to yourself, the one you already saw clearly in imagination, in silence, and in your morning commitment. I once thought that changing life required grand decisions, dramatic turning points, or tearful awakenings. But in truth, what changed me most deeply was the smallest thing: the way I began my mornings. Nothing glamorous, only that I rose on time, kept silence for a few minutes, wrote down thoughts not yet formed, and asked myself, what quality do I want to live by today? Not every day was perfect, but I realized mornings with intention always carried a quiet strength, a strength that kept me from reacting recklessly, from being swept into chaos, from losing myself in the trivial. I do not live to become successful by someone else's definition. I live so that each day I may become the best version of myself, and that journey always begins with mornings of quiet simplicity. If what I shared helps you reclaim awareness for yourself, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss the next content. Thank you for your time. May your mornings be truly calm, truly steadfast, and may your life be led from within, not pulled by anything outside. See you in the next video.